Humanity Unleashed Episode 32, The Accidental Tactician.
It had been a stellar cycle since my demise. But hey, who's counting? We humans have a funny way of keeping track of time, don't we? I found myself embroiled in a war that transcended dimensions and involved species far more diverse than any earthly ecosystem could host. My role? A humble sergeant, stuck under the command of the most incompetently brilliant leader known to the universe, Admiral Eldo. Don't get me wrong, Eldo was no genius. Quite the contrary, his foolhardiness and outright obliviousness to strategic planning had saved our hides more times than we could count. It was like the aliens had no idea how to handle an utter lack of tactics. As far as they were concerned, Eldo was an unpredictable, unclassifiable enigma. I remember distinctly the day we were up against the Volume-Tyran force. Eldo, in his unprecedented wisdom, decided to dispatch our smallest cruiser, the Riff-Raff, to the front lines while our battleships held back. The Volume-Tyrans were caught off guard, not knowing how to react to such a seemingly ludicrous tactic. Turns out, the Riff-Raff was just big enough to slip past their radar and cause enough havoc to leave their defense in disarray. It was a victory, but not one I'd ever been trained to anticipate. One day, my patience wore thin. I'd had enough of the impromptu strategies and nonsensical tactics. I decided to pen a letter to the enemy, the Xytherians. They'd already managed to eliminate most of our competent leaders, and I figured it was about time they put Eldo out of his, or rather, our misery. The Xytherians, known for their advanced surveillance technology, were sure to come across my desperate plea. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Nothing. Eldo was still bumbling about, and the enemy seemed all too pleased to let him. Then it happened. Eldo was promoted to Fleet Admiral. The despair that followed was palpable, and I feared we were truly doomed. And then, just as the gloom threatened to consume us, Eldo fell. Taken out by a Xytherian sniper, his life came to an end in a blaze of glory he'd always imagined for himself. My plea had been heard. I was flooded with a strange cocktail of relief and guilt. Yes, our command was a mess, but Eldo had, in his own weird way, managed to keep us afloat. His demise marked the end of an era of inexplicable victories and baffling tactics. But more than that, it reminded us all that even in the most chaotic of circumstances, the human spirit could carve its own path. Even if that path was as convoluted as the mind of Admiral Eldo.